for the upcoming year on Carnivore, where would you like to see the community go or shift, or even just a few years out? Where would you love to see Carnivore maybe grow into more, or maybe it's research, maybe it's the growth of Revero and other people willing to try Carnivore. Where would you love to see Carnivore?
I would like to see it be a accepted therapeutic tool first as an option, because again, as a physician, my main goal is to take care of sick people. I don't care if some athlete wants to do it or somebody wants to make it a lifestyle, or because that's all fine and nice, but I think it really should be, we should recognize it as a valid therapeutic tool and not be dogmatic about it. I think we
Right.
should get away from dogmatism, because I don't think it helps. I think, unfortunately, social media being what it is, it sort of emphasizes the people that are willing to do the outrageous things. You got Liver King out there eating raw testicles, and the Testicle King guy. I mean, it's just, that stuff is ridiculous. It's unnecessary. Hopefully we get away from that. We get to like what is sort of realistic and practical. Like I said, if I'm out there saying just eat ground beef and eggs and you're good, that's, people can get behind that. But what
Right.
what gets the attention is some wacko eating raw brains and testicles. I mean, and this is what the media focuses on, social media focuses on, and it's sort of a disservice to the many, because a lot of people are off put by that. They find
Right.
I'm not doing that. I'm not eating baboon testicles once a week. Why would I want to do that? I wouldn't do that personally. If the carnivore diet would have been presented to me as, I need to eat these raw organs and things like that, I would never have done it.
Same.
I would have never, there would have never been Shawn Baker carnivore. There would never been a carnivore diet book written. But I came across a bunch of people that were saying, hey, let's eat steak and whatever, ground beef. And it was very reasonable for me to try. And so that's where my genesis comes from. And I like to credit those people, the Kelly Hogans, the Charles Maddox, or the Charles Washingtons,
Emerald
the
Hearn.
Joe Andersons and Charlene Andersons, and those people that were doing things that was something I felt I could easily do that, because I like eating steak. I like eating eggs. I'm not so much about, raw brains and kidneys and testicles and things like that that have been popularized by maybe some other folks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I went to nutritional therapy school, and I mean, it's a fact that there are certain nutrients in liver that there's a lot of, but it's not required. And it took me to work with so many different carnivores to realize, oh, you don't actually need to eat liver to thrive on this way of eating. And I think you and I have both been doing this for over 5 years, and I actually never eat liver now because of different reasons. But I assume you don't really eat organ meats too. And I think we both look, I know I'm not standing, but we both look relatively healthy, right?
Well, I'm coming into my 8th year, so December will start my 8th year, and yeah, I mean, just because liver has a lot of vitamins, so does a multivitamin. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so you can make the argument, well, you need to be eating 3 multivitamins a day. There is sufficient, and then there's more than sufficient. And I think, again, this is the thing that the old timers have been doing this now. Now they're into their 15th, 18th, 20th
Right.
year. Said from the very beginning, we see people that come in and they're like pushing organ meats, and they always end up quitting the diet and going away, and you never hear from them again. And that's kind of what we've seen in that respect. It's something that, it sounds good on paper, and you can paint a
Yeah.
big story. Oh, the indigenous tribes, our ancestors ate the whole animal, which may or may not have been true. I mean, when we look at these modern populations, the Hadza, out there in Tanzania, they're running around chasing and eating baboon testicles, because that's all they got left. But you put them in rather than a subsistence situation, into a surplus situation, like, which would clearly have existed tens of thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, when you got plenty of animals to hunt and plenty of meat and fat. Maybe you wouldn't have been relegated to sort of eating every little last morsel, because you got so much around you. And that's, even animals demonstrate that same thing. When there's lots of fat animals around, like lions and stuff like that, they leave a lot behind. They're just like, yeah, we got plenty. I'm not gonna eat, scavenge the eyeballs and everything else that may be generally thought of. Because I don't know, why is it that eating organ meats is not pleasant to me. It just doesn't taste good. Do I think that 100,000 years ago my taste buds would have been different? Maybe they would have been. I don't know. I suspect it would have been the same. It's like, give me the good bits, and then if I'm starving, I'll eat that. But the rest of it, I'm probably not going to eat. But anyway, that's an argument we'll never know, because we can't definitively go back there. We don't have a time machine. We've got evidence that we were eating big fatty animals like elephants. I mean, that
Right.
was clear that we ate a lot of fat. And I think a lot of times when you see, like, well, animals go for the viscera, right? You see, well, the alpha wolf gets and eats the guts first. Well, that's where the fat is too. I
Yeah.
mean, you could just as well make the argument that's where the fat is, because they're hunting lean animals. A zebra is pretty lean, and the only place it has fat on its body is not going to be its legs and arms. It's going to be inside, and it may be just a desire to get fat. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it makes sense. And some arguments say that it's because the organs are the easiest place to access because of all the ribs and stuff. So, I mean, like you said, we'll never know. But I just think it goes back to your first point that if you want to eat this way long term, you have to enjoy what you eat. Because if you're muscling through every meal and then forcing yourself to take either supplements or take different organs or, freeze dry and swallow it and gag on it, you're not going to last. And I just think if you just weigh the pros and cons, it's actually just focus on what you enjoy, because this is for health today, not health for tomorrow or for longevity, but just what will make you feel your best and what will allow you to enjoy. I think it's important to look forward to eating a very, crusted, grilled ribeye than thinking of, okay, now I have to eat 2 ounces of liver. There's such a difference in even your mindset into going into that meal. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a sustainable build, a success standpoint and a sustainability standpoint, one, you can't be hungry all the time. Two, you got to like what you eat. And
Right.
if you're figuring out recipes to, like all these recipes for us, like how to gag this stuff down and disguise the flavor of. I mean, that's the recipe basically. It's like, well, why the hell am I eating in the first place? It's the same argument why we don't like to eat bitter things. I mean, it's a warning signal, I think, in many ways, and yet we've got all these bitter foods that they're sort of like, saying it's a learned taste and it's acquired taste. No, it was wired into you because maybe you're not supposed to eat those things. We know that little kids, you stick a Brussels sprout in front of a little kid and they're going to be spitting it out within a second. You give them a steak, whether it's cooked or not, primarily most of the time we feed these kids steaks and they're gnawing on that like crazy. I did a raw meat experiment years ago. I tried that.
Okay.
I did a month of eating nothing but raw, and I literally didn't like it. I was just like, I did not look forward to a single meal. I was like, oh shit, I got to eat another bowl of ground beef, raw ground beef. And it was just, and I ate, nice stuff. And it was, but I would never have been able to stay on that diet. There was no way I would have been able to sustain that. And so, I mean, it's just, and that's maybe just me. I know there are people that do raw meat, and I'm like, fine, that's fine. Just be careful you don't get an infection, because there have been people that have gotten serious, long lasting infections due to that. Amber Hearn is one of them. She said it took her like 2
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she got sick from some raw meat. It took her like 2 years to recover from that. And I've talked to other people that are the same. So it's just be mindful of that. It's something, at the very least, just sear the surface. You're going to eat steak, sear the surface real quick, kill any surface bacteria, and then you can eat the inside rare if you want. And I think that's probably a more realistic, because you're still getting 95% of the supposed benefits you believe that eating raw meat confers. And I don't know that really it's that much impressive anyway, but that's how I would do it. If I was gonna push for maybe eating raw meat, I would just sear steaks quickly and then go from there.
Yeah, as a nutritionist, I hear the raw argument a lot, because what about the little amount of vitamin C or the water soluble vitamins? And so for a long period, because that logic made sense to me, and it is true that cooking reduces some amounts, we just don't know exactly what, but we kept running stool tests on certain people that were really sick, and then we would see E. coli. And so every time we'd go back and ask, what do you eat on your diet? And a lot of them ate raw meat. And so ever since then, we don't advocate for it, because it just takes 1 or 2 bad meats. And if you're eating it 3 times a day or 2 times a day, there's just a higher chance of eating a meat that's contaminated. And so for that reason, our practice, we just don't recommend raw meat, just because we see how sick people get. And I didn't even realize that Amber got sick off raw meat as well.
Yeah. She said it took her like 2 years to get over that. So yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think that I'm not an advocate for well done meat, to be honest. It's a taste guy that you're ruining a steak when you do that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's very fair to say.